Welcome to this episode of People Are Animals Too, Darn It. I'm your host, Mandy Evans, and today I have Eric Ridgway joining me. He is a licensed clinical professional counselor. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you, Mandy. It's good to be on your show. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And this is your, I think, will be your, well, we'll just say multiple times you've now joined me, so I appreciate you taking the time. First, let's hear a little bit about you so people get to know who you are.
So I am a professional counselor. I work with people. I am an animal lover. I've been an animal lover since I was a kid. It's a passion for me. I want the world to become kinder towards animals, so I really appreciate the work that you're doing. And I believe that the world is responding more and more positively about animals, and that I get to work with people and organizations that work with animals feels really good. As you know, I've been a volunteer with the local animal shelter for many, many years. At one time, I was on the board of directors, and because of my people skills, because I don't have the most amazing animal education, but from my people skills, I was asked to be the president. And I felt hugely honored to play a role many, many years ago in our local animal shelter going to be a non-kill animal shelter.
Yeah.
And that felt really good.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that work. And you still work with the shelter on helping do some teaching and training to help us become better aware of the complexities of being human.
Working with people is never boring. There's so much to learn, and it can make such a difference in a small individual ways and in a much broader society way.
Yeah.
And that's exciting for me.
So we are in about mid-May. And it's in 2020, so we're in the middle of the pandemic. And we thought that it would be helpful to talk to you about how do we stay optimistic, how do we build our resilience, because a lot of us have had to work from home. In fact, I was just heard on a call recently that a shelter that was taking in just emergency cases, their staff was really struggling because they didn't have these healthy, vibrant, ready for adoption animals in their facility. They were working with animals that had been maybe pulled out or really needed some behavior or medical help, and it was really draining on their team. So what advice, and let's talk today about how we can help each other get through this.
So, wonderful topic, Mandy, and I want to start with saying staying positive is extremely important during challenging times, because people will get through the challenging times far better, those who are optimistic and have optimistic people around them. So when times are easy, if we're not at our best, the consequences may not be that bad. But when things are challenging, so yeah, we've had people doing social distancing, staying at home, and this is a challenging time around the world. This is different in the world because of, communication. It's been challenging everywhere, all over this country and many countries. So staying positive will have a big influence on the outcome with things. And I can't cite specific studies, but many studies have done that those recovering from a heart attack, from a stroke, from serious specific medical problems, those who have an optimistic attitude and have people around them or animals around them that they connect with, where there's a bond, where they feel supported, loved, connected, nurtured, do much better in terms of survival than those who don't. So during hard times, it is even more important that we stay positive.
So, okay, do you know the saying? Can you say like the wolves thing? I love the saying. You know it?
Well, yeah, but you could say it.
I don't know it. You say it.
So, little boy, the way I have heard the story, and I like to share the story, a little boy goes up to his grandfather, and he is from a native culture and a traditional culture, and they live very close to nature. They're very connected to nature. And he says, Grandpa, I struggle sometimes because inside of me, I feel like I want to be a good boy and I want to do good things. And then there's a part of me that is mischievous and sometimes am naughty and I do bad things. And it feels like there are these two wolves and they're fighting, and there's the good wolf that wants me to do good things. And there's this wolf that's really negative and wants to just tear things up. And there are these two wolves, and Grandpa, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm a kid. When I grow up, what's going to happen? Who's going to win? Who's going to... And the grandfather, this is a culture that values nature and wildlife, says the one that will win will be the one that you feed. So are we feeding the good wolves within us? Are we feeding the good wolves within other people? Or are we feeding the negative wolves, the mischievous, the naughty wolf within ourselves, and seeing and feeding the naughty wolves in other people? It's how we're responding, and in challenging times in the world or the country or the community, which one are we feeding?
Which I think is just a really good question to ask yourself when you're feeling challenged or there's a situation that you could say, which wolf am I feeding right now? Like watching the news. And I think that we tend to forget that the media or news is entertainment. Like their ratings, all of that, their commercials, everything are based on the viewership. And viewership is more or highly valued when you have negative things that really stir the pot. People are like, oh, I need to see that. Those captions. Oh, what happened to that little girl? And then your reality gets skewed by this idea that the world's falling apart and there's all this negative stuff. How does one stop that or find balance when the media is so in your face all the time with negativity?
Yeah, so we need to make a conscious choice as to where we're putting our focus. And if we put our focus on what is negative in the world, that's what we're going to see more of. And if we put our focus on what is good in the world, we're going to see more of that. So we really do need to be aware enough as to what we're doing. Where I have noticed this significantly is in an elder population. If they are getting out of their home and socializing less, the news may be a large amount of how they hear about the world.
Yeah.
And what I see is they can become more and more scared, more and more see crime is everywhere, because if that's what the news is presenting, that's what they're thinking, and it's actually feeding their fears, their insecurities. The world's a dangerous place. And I don't see that the world is dangerous all the time. And yet the elderly person who's watching the 6 o'clock news every night, they go, oh, murders are happening everywhere and planes are crashing every day. And that becomes their reality. And so I think it's important that we are aware of how are we getting influence? And we do influence each other. What kind of influences am I getting from the people around me?
I also think that when you watch the news, it's not empowering, because you can't. What steps can you take that would prevent or stop or and a lot of people, because some people close to me will say, you have to watch the news, Mandy, because you have to stay educated and informed.
I agree that being informed is valuable. The news is only one way that we can be informed. There's the quantity of information that is given in a newscast is often way smaller than what we can read in a very short amount of time. So if we're looking at reliable, fact-based writing, we have a better chance of getting the news without the sensationalism that's often done. And the saying that is heard by most everyone, if it bleeds, it leads. Yeah. That's what they put on the news. They put the most horrific things on because it gets the viewership up, and that's not necessarily an accurate reflection of what the real situation is. It's the worst part of a situation. So we can get our information in other ways. And again, we have to consciously make choices as to where we're going for our information.
So part of being optimistic, part of building your resilience is really feeling connected. And it's hard right now. Do you have any suggestions and things that you've talked to your clients about and how they can build their connection?
Absolutely. And in fact, some people are going through the COVID-19 crisis really doing very well, and some are not doing well. And the difference that I see really boils down a lot to connection and optimism. And so some people are using the COVID-19 crisis to actually connect more with people. They're staying in touch with their family members and loved ones around the country or the world because they're not going out face to face around people so much. They're saying, this is my chance to contact my aunt who I haven't seen in so long, or my grandmother, or my friend from college that was, 15 years ago or 5 decades ago. People are using it to do connection. People are reaching out to their neighbors more. So you see where I'm going. I go to the positive. I have trained myself to think for the positive. There's people that are being inspired by others making masks to share with the firefighters or whatever. So some are taking this crisis and turning it into an opportunity to do good, and they're doing inspiring things, and that's where I tend to focus. The ones who are struggling more are not getting as much connection, and we have to play a role in the amount of connection that we have. Are we willing to reach out to another, to connect to another? Are we willing to ask a stranger at the grocery store, if we're buying any groceries, I hope you're being safe, to share concern and care for others? Even if we don't know that person, we can express concern, because during the hard times, this is when the connection is so important.
And I don't know if you know, but we've seen a huge increase in people adopting or fostering. The adoption numbers are a little skewed because a lot of animals went into foster, but a huge amount of people have used this time to increase connection with animals by bringing animals into their homes.
And I think that often during a crisis, whether it's a flood, a fire, a tornado, or a virus epidemic, people say, how can I make a difference? How can I contribute? And so that people are stepping up to help animals doesn't surprise me, and it warms my heart. This is bringing out the best in people, and that's what we can all do. When there is a challenge, this is our opportunity to shine, to be our best. Some will go in a negative direction. More will go in a positive direction. I would like our news to be filled with going in the positive direction and people sharing those stories with each other. So I want to invite all of us who care about animal compassion and welfare to use the most challenging times, whether it's in your shelter, your organization, your veterinarian school, your university, your own family, to use the challenging times to say, what energy am I bringing to other people, to my community? How am I making a difference? This is our chance to put our Superman, Superwoman cape on and to contribute and make a difference during the hard times.
Yeah, what I think is, I think it's brought back people's sense of humanity.
Yes.
I think we lost it, and we've been really callous about looking at people and judging them. And now, funny, so many Zoom meetings are happening right now. And I love that we're all seeing people's homes. And one meeting, someone was late and she shows up and she's like ripping a towel off her head because she just got out of the shower. And I think it's great. Like, it shows that it takes away all these pretense that we need to be perfect.
I love what you're sharing. At a human level, we're all the same. We all need to, do our self-care, and seeing people's home. Nobody has a perfect home. Nobody has a perfect life. We're all in this together. More people have been donating food to food banks than than in a very long time. We're not in a war with an enemy where we drop bombs, but we're pulling together almost as if it's that. And so people are feeling more generous and more kind. And again, we hear some examples of people being more self-centered, but they're the minority.
Yeah.
The majority is, how do we help our neighbors? How do we be there for each other? And with animal welfare, this is really important because the work that you do, I believe, is way more challenging than the work that I do. I'm working with people who are usually motivated to have some aspect of their life be better. They're coming because they want something to be better in their life. Working with animals, it is not always easy, and it can be discouraging at times. It can be exhausting at times. So I think it's even more important for the people to say, because you work with animals and you work with animals and you do, I'm going to make sure that I'm nurturing you so that you can keep doing the work in these challenging situations. And we step up to support our first responders in the animal world.
Yeah, and laugh. You
Humor.
always say, laugh and have some fun.
One of the best signs of good mental health is the ability to laugh at ourselves when we goof up, when we make mistakes. And if we can laugh with people, not at people, it lightens the energy in the room immediately. It's super healthy.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's fun that we can just have fun. Another thing on Zoom is that you can change your background. And so some of the people, they've been having so much fun with one person, like, put herself in jail. That's another way of just lightening
So I am
up.
not very good with technology. I like working with people. I have not figured out. So I've been in some Zoom meetings and I see people changing their back. They're on the beach. They're in Tahiti. I have no idea how to do any of that. So I'm just me sitting in my room.
Yesterday, I had a call really early in the morning, and my son looked at me on the screen, and he's like, "Mom, you look old." And he pulls up, I don't even know he knows how to do this stuff. He pulls up my settings, and he's like, improve my image, something like that, clicks it, and he's like, "Look at you. You look better." I'm like, "I do look better." So we did a family Zoom call last night, and I said, yeah, and I told them a story, and all of them, they're all checking their settings, and they're like, damn, that's already turned on for me.
That's as good as I can look.
As good as I'm going to get.
But your family's laughing together, playing together, interacting together. And during this hard time, I hear a number of families spending more time together. They're having more family meals together. They're playing more board games.
Yeah.
Parents are more engaged with their children's schoolwork. Again, during the hard times, people can pull together, and there's a lot of that happening. There's also parents overwhelmed going, I can't help my child with their homework. The homework's harder than I can do. I don't know how to do this.
Right.
And the parents are having more respect for the work that the teachers do and the hard work that their children are doing in school. So it's a time that I think it's important to look for what we're grateful for. My wife and I have a practice at night in bed. The last thing we do before we go to sleep, say, I love you, good night, is we share what we're grateful for. And so I highly encourage people around the world to look for what is good during the times that are hard.
Yeah. And I like to look for the helpers and the innovation. Whenever you have times that are hard, you're going to find people who kind of rise to the occasion and figure out how to make life better just through a challenging time. And that's what we see in animal welfare right now, is this kind of shift, and it's a beautiful shift to supporting people and animals more equally than we have in the past. So one thing that has been brought up, and that I think you can help make the difference. So all these animals are in foster homes right now. And
which is wonderful.
It's fantastic.
The animals are happier in someone's home than in a shelter. Shelters are there as a last resort.
Yes.
They can be in a loving home. And I love that people are stepping up to say, there's a crisis, I'm going to foster animals. Good for the animal, good for the people.
Yes.
Everyone wins.
So then you have people, and I've been called at least 4 times to get my opinion on my the crystal ball I keep in my desk. Do you think we're going to see all these animals brought back the minute people have to go back to work? And the tone of it is in a tone of these people who have been fostering are somehow like selfish that they got these animals,
wow.
and then they're going to turn them in. And my thing is always better that they've been in a home for the last few months, and even if they do end up in a shelter, they were just spared a huge amount of time in a shelter. But what happens is, how do you differentiate? Like, I'm an optimist, but I'm also a realist. So you have to be able to say, my optimistic point of view is that that's not going to happen. But what if, is there ways that we can plan, or are there tangible steps that we can plan for if it does happen? So I think there's this like a battle that happens between really being able to focus on this could happen and these are the steps we have to take versus it won't happen.
So, Mandy, I want to comment about something that you said that I think is really important. I've heard so many people in my line of work as a professional counselor say that optimists are not realists, and that's not accurate. You are an optimist, and I know you also to be a realist. And in fact, those two go together way more than the pessimists who are seeing the world in a negative light and creating the world to be more negative from their experience, because that's the filters that they use from which they see stuff. So I want the viewing audience to hear that the idea that if someone's an optimist, they're not a realist, that is false. That is not accurate. And the people who are most promoting optimists are not realists are making their life harder. They're getting in their own way, which all of us do at times, get in our own way, but that is not necessary. So we can be an optimist. Things are going to change and be different as COVID-19 continues, because it's going to be in waves. We don't know what it's going to look like in 1 month, in 6 months, or in 2 years. We don't know that. But I believe that good things will come from this, and we don't need to know exactly what's going to happen. What I think is that awareness and consciousness of caring for others will be bigger because of COVID-19. And that will be caring for others that are human and caring for others that are animal. So I think we'll have greater number of foster families that do active fostering after COVID-19 than we did before. So I am an optimist and a realist as well. I think we're going to see more of that. And shelters will go through waves, as you experience, where there's a higher population in the shelter and then a lower. And that's not going to change. That's life.
Yeah.
And I want to be okay that there'll be more challenging times and more easy times. And I want to go with the flow. And part of resilience during the challenging times is I'm not going to unrealistically expect everything to be easy. Mm-hmm. A child may have this fantasy that my life will be easy. As we come out of childhood, we hopefully become realists and go, life will be challenging. And because I'm an optimist, I will rise to meet that challenge. And the pessimists are saying, in effect, if life is challenging, I'm going to really struggle and it won't be good. We don't have to do that to ourselves. In fact, those who work in animal welfare, veterinary students, they better have an attitude of optimism, because if they don't have an attitude of optimism, that work is going to be extremely difficult for them. So if any vet students are out there, please approach animal welfare with a place of optimism. We do the best we can. It is not going to be perfect. The world is not perfect. We should not expect it to be perfect.
That's good. I was just at a vet school, and it was interesting because I was very pleased to see how many really positive focused students were in the room. One more thing that is happening right now is shelters are closed. They're struggling to maintain the rules, social distancing, and then allowing the public in to do adoptions. And sometimes the public can be they're mean. And they're mean because they might have puppies, and let's say that they aren't allowing people from out of that direct area come and adopt, and they're getting attacked. Is there any advice on how to really stay in the mindset of knowing that you really are trying to make the best decisions to protect your community and your animals, and not allow that negativity to bring you down.
So there will be negative energy in the world at times everywhere. There will be. I think what's important is that we don't join the negative energy, that we take the high road, that we choose to see the person who's angry or frustrated or scared or whatever it is that's leading, underlying their negative energy, that we see them as they're struggling and we have compassion for them versus seeing them, they're the enemy and they're attacking me personally. It's not about me personally. It's truly not. And if we can see that they're struggling, how can I be of support to them? And we don't have the magic wand where we can give everyone what they want all the time. That's not reality. So being an optimist isn't like a Pollyanna, we can do magic. It's not that at all. But we have compassion when we're not able to meet someone's desire, but we don't take it personally that they're upset. And some people, let's face it, go through life angry at the world a lot more than others. We want to make sure that we're not joining in the angry approach to life. It won't serve us well.
And getting support from your team to make sure that you all know that you're in it together and that you're staying on the right course.
When we've been hit by a wave of negative energy, if we can go to someone and say, will you listen to me? Can I take some time to tell you what just happened? I was just hit with negative energy. I'm struggling. Being a safe place for others to vent and knowing that when we let others see that we are negatively impacted and we struggle too, it honors them because we're communicating. You're a safe person for me to show I struggle, I'm vulnerable, I'm having a hard time, and I feel safe enough with you to share with you how I'm struggling.
I love it. Well, I appreciate that you met with me today and specifically on this topic because we are frontline workers.
Yes.
In all of this, and each person out there that's working with animals in some capacity or another they have bad days and they need to be able to hold on to the optimism.
And we can get positive from the animals and we can get positive from people, and I want it to be both. I want us to turn to the animals for joy and love and to the people. And as individuals working in animal welfare, we need to make sure that we're bringing that positive to the animals and to our people around us and within our communities.
And when we post this, I will do my best to post a book. I think it's called The Happiness Advantage. I don't know, but I read it and it's all about the outlook you have and kind of what we've talked about before is the glasses you're wearing. And if you're wearing, it's an intention, you're making an intentional decision to be happy and to be optimistic. You're feeding that wolf.
It truly makes a difference to bring out the positive in the world.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for being on. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mandy. I really enjoy being a part of what you're doing. We're making a difference in the world, and it's helping the animals beyond what we can know, and that's exciting.
It is. Thank you.